Good evening, everybody. What will be the Trump administration is now taking shape with a historic number of appointments. The president-elect announcing 3 more top-level positions, filling his administration today with primarily national security and law enforcement advisors. Trump tapping Senator Jeff Sessions to be the country's attorney general, one of the earliest and most enthusiastic of all elected officials to endorse Donald Trump. Congressman and House Intelligence Committee member Mike Pompeo selected to lead the Central Intelligence Agency, and retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn to serve as the National Security Advisor to the president. The left-wing national media, of course, that has been criticizing the Trump transition team for days now, silent as the team moves with great speed in these appointments. Donald Trump has now made 5 appointments in under 2 weeks. Vice President-elect Governor Mike Pence today touting Trump's decisive action.
Great working with the President-elect. He is a man of action. We've got a great number of men and women, great qualifications, come forward to serve this new administration, and I'm just humbled to be a part of it.
And we'll be discussing the cabinet selection process and Trump's potential future choices. Among my guests tonight, former Trump campaign manager, now a senior advisor on the transition team, Kellyanne Conway. Also with us tonight, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, Fred Barnes, former Clinton advisor, Doug Schoen. And we're following Mr. Trump today as he moves the transition meetings from the Trump Tower in Manhattan to Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster. Trump's scheduled to meet tomorrow afternoon with one of his biggest critics through the campaign, Mitt Romney. They'll be talking about, apparently, a potential Secretary of State position, and I'm sure much else. Trump also said to have a strong interest in having a former general run the Pentagon, meeting with retired Marine General James Mattis tomorrow as well. One general also under consideration will join me here tonight. We'll be talking with retired Army General Jack Keane. He met with Trump yesterday, and Trump already affecting change on the economic front. We'll be talking about Ford Motors' decision not to move one of their Kentucky plants and the jobs therein to Mexico. Our top story tonight, President-elect Trump making 3 critical appointments today. As I said, Senator Jeff Sessions selected by the president-elect to become Attorney General. Sessions has a distinguished legal career. He served as both U.S. Attorney and State Attorney General. But some in the left-wing national media recycling 30-year-old negative charges. Let's take a look at Sessions' record. As U.S. Attorney, Sessions filed a number of desegregation lawsuits in Alabama. He voted in favor of the 30-year extension of the Civil Rights Act. Sessions also voted to confirm Attorney General Eric Holder, even spearheaded the effort to award the Congressional Gold Medal to Rosa Parks. The president-elect chose Congressman Mike Pompeo to be his director of CIA. He is a former active-duty cavalry officer in the U.S. Army. He graduated first in his class at West Point, a Harvard Law School graduate. Pompeo currently serves on the House Intelligence Committee, is a fierce critic of the Iran nuclear deal. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn selected to serve as the assistant to the president for national security affairs, national security advisor. Flynn has served in many military intelligence posts throughout his 33-year military career, including as director of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff and intelligence advisor to General Stanley McChrystal in Iraq and Afghanistan. In 2012, he was appointed to run the Defense Intelligence Agency. And today, we've just learned that Donald Trump is considering retired General David Petraeus for a senior post in the administration, including, we're told, possibly as Defense Secretary. Joining me now, the first woman to run a winning presidential campaign in the history of this country. Senior advisor on the Trump transition team, Kellyanne Conway. And I get to say, first things first, congratulations on a wonderful, wonderful campaign and result.
Well, thank you. Winning certainly finishes a lot of sentence. It solves a lot of problems. And I just want to say that Donald Trump and Mike Pence were phenomenal candidates, and candidates matter. And I'm particularly, people always say, they stop me in the street constantly. They want to take pictures. They want to talk about the election. And they say, I'm so happy for you. And I immediately tell them all the same thing. I'm so happy for the country, and I truly am.
Yeah, I get to say amen. It's quite a wondrous moment. As I was kidding with some of my colleagues, to me, the grass is a little greener, the air a little fresher, the water a little bluer.
Well, Mother Nature actually accepts the election result because it's 65 degrees outside in New York City a week before Thanksgiving.
Well, and these appointments are, I have to say, I think are
solid,
absolutely brilliant. And starting, if I may, with Jeff Sessions, who I've got a long-term friendship with, who I think is a magnificent historical figure in his own right, to come in and to be able to be Attorney General for this president is a great thing for the country.
It's a great thing for the country. And Jeff Sessions, of course, he'll be vilified and criticized by the left, but they won't like anybody as a nominee who's not one of their folks. They're still trying to relitigate the election and not accept the results. But Jeff Sessions spent, about 15 years as a federal prosecutor, right. U.S. attorney, prosecuted bad guys in Alabama, certainly, and people should go look up the record. And then has been a United States senator, reelected by enormous margins, not even opposed. The only person not opposed in a primary or a general election in 2014, Lou, which means if the Democrats had had a problem with him before, they would have run someone against him. All of a sudden, it's a problem because he's Donald Trump's nominee for the AG. But I know Jeff Sessions very well. I worked with him when he was a legislator in the Senate on things like immigration reform and others. And I worked with him very closely during this campaign. He's A+, and he's there because he's qualified for the job and he's capable of doing it on day one.
And General Flynn, National Security Advisor, Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA Director. I mean, these are just, as you say, solid. I think they are just terrific choices for the president.
They're fabulous choices, Lou, and our landing teams on transition also went into, have arrived at those particular departments also. So we feel like everything's going very well with respect to national security. Also, I know the left is upset because the national security and counterterrorism measures and the Obama doctrine, as it were, is about to be challenged significantly by these three leaders, if they're confirmed, and by President-elect Donald Trump. I mean, people don't feel as safe. They feel that we're not as tough abroad.
You know, I know the left has had, it seemed at times, some sort of great fun in attacking Donald Trump and attacking nearly every Republican or conservative, and very personal, very ugly, very nasty. And yet it continues with him as president-elect, the people's choice, the man who will be leading this nation. And it's clear they're not backing off one whit. And there's got to be a response. I mean, the national liberal media has been arrayed and aligned against the president-elect from the very beginning. There has to be a solution here.
Well, I think the solution was winning because part of the victory was a pushback on the sort of lemming-like pounce on Donald Trump. The arguments against him were, the attacks were vicious, they were personal, they were hyper-partisan. And I think some people use words that are actually not your garden variety punditry on a TV show, but really had legal meaning attached to them, really had, I believe, a way of characterizing him that's not only inaccurate, but that was truly beyond the pale. And if anybody had said that about Hillary Clinton, you would have heard about it. But look, this whole political correctness lost big league, as Donald Trump would say, on Election Day. And I think that had a lot to do with his overall messaging.
You know, I'm partially kidding when I say the grass is greener, the sky is bluer. I
don't know. I'm walking on sunshine.
There is a, as you well should, there is a different feel already in this country, in this city, which, by the way, is 7-1 registered Democrat over Republican. So it's not, this is quite a test for the city of New York. There is a positive feeling. There is an optimism. We're talking 10 days since his election.
No, it's true.
And it's palpable.
I see it. Lots of people seem to already be here in the city for Thanksgiving break and enjoying it. And I ask them when they stop me, where are you from? What's your name? And to a person, they talk about how their faith is restored in this country. They feel like the Supreme Court or the country has been saved in large part. But you're absolutely right. They felt like they were staring into 48 years of sameness, of the status quo, of just managing our decline, of not having a legitimate chance to truly shake up Washington.
Managing decline.
And that's the way that they feel. And this is why it's the people's victory. And I would just tell folks who like to listen to each other in the donor or political or media class, start listening to the people. The cues and the clues of this election were hiding in plain sight the entire time. If you went to a Donald Trump rally and you saw 20,000 people outside and 26 people outside, 20,000 inside, if you listened to his change message, if you saw how Hillary Clinton's trustworthiness and honesty numbers never budged, in fact, they worsened, those clues were right in front of us. And I'll be very curious to see what happens to those who got the election wrong. I think they should just say, I got it wrong. I'm going to listen closer to Americans, and I'm going to let this guy be my hashtag be my president and form his own government.
Well, one thing that is truly exciting is there's not a thing they can do about it. He is our president.
He is our president.
And I cannot wait for what he accomplishes, what the nation accomplishes.
He's a businessman. He's accountable. He delivers. He produces. He's used to being tough, yet building consensus when he needs to. And I think you're going to see very quick action those first 100 days. This is a guy who keeps his promises. And if he doesn't, people will see him as a typical politician, so he will.
All right. Kellyanne Conway, congratulations again. And to the point, thanks for helping save the republic. President-elect Trump receiving an apparent olive branch from Ford Motors. The car maker announcing it will keep production of the Lincoln MKC sport utility vehicle in this country. There were plans to move it to Mexico. Trump tweeted this, quote, "Just got a call from my friend Bill Ford, chairman of Ford, who advised me that he will be keeping the Lincoln plant in Kentucky, not Mexico. I worked hard with Bill Ford to keep the Lincoln plant in Kentucky. I owed it to the great state of Kentucky for their confidence in me." Trump won more than 62% of Kentucky's popular vote in the presidential election. Ford confirms its plans in a statement saying, quote, "We are encouraged that President-elect Trump and the new Congress will pursue policies that will improve U.S. competitiveness and make it possible to keep production of this vehicle here in the U.S." Trump has proposed putting a 35% tax on vehicles that are manufactured in Mexico and then exported to the United States. We're coming right back. Much more straight ahead. Stay with us. Steve Bannon, appointed by the president-elect to be his chief strategist and senior counselor, fighting back against just a series of vicious personal attacks by Democrats and, of course, the left-wing national media. The chief strategist, senior advisor to the president-elect, telling The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "I'm not a white nationalist. I'm a nationalist. I'm an economic nationalist." Bannon also added the globalists gutted the American working class and created a middle class in Asia. The issue now is about Americans looking to not get, well, messed over. I'm looking for substitutes there and doing a bad job of it. Coming to us now from Tucson, Arizona, is none other than Doug Schoen and Fred Barnes of the Weekly Standard from D.C. Doug, good to have you both, you with us from Tucson. And Fred, even though it's Washington, we can accept your presence here tonight. Both are Fox News contributors. Doug, I've got to just ask first you, what do you make of this unrelenting attack by particularly the national left-wing media?
Well, my view is coming from the center, not the left or the right, that what America has as its highest responsibility is to come together, to work on a bipartisan basis, to implement those aspects of the Trump agenda that have broad public support.
You mean like the Obama administration, is that correct?
The Obama administration, as I've said to you many times, failed. I don't want Donald Trump's administration to fail. So we need unity and we need congeniality.
Balderdash. We needed to save the republic. All of the damage that's been done by the Obama administration over 8 years, Doug Schoen, as you well know, can't be replaced by...
I don't think General Flynn and his best friend, Vladimir Putin, are the answer to that. And hopefully Fred Barnes will agree with me.
Well, let's find out, shall we? Fred?
I don't. I think General Flynn is the person that Donald Trump trusts. He knows a lot. And I think maybe it's an advantage with Donald Trump to have been fired from your job as head of the Defense Intelligence Agency by Barack Obama. Flynn is a controversial figure, but I think Trump should have the person he wants in that job. The
Absolutely.
person that will come in and see him every morning.
That's
I
what
guess
scares me.
Well, you're scared, but you know what? You crack me up, Doug, just to be real honest with you. You know, the idea is that if the left wins an election, elections have consequences. The left, however, if the Republicans win an election, they should be bipartisan. It's pure balderdash. How can you do it with a straight face? I've known you too long.
I do it with a straight face because I want to stand with NATO on a bipartisan basis. I want Ukraine returned to the Ukrainians. I don't want a national security advisor who is in the pay of Vladimir Putin.
Wait a minute. You disassociated yourself from Hillary Clinton, but you didn't at any time criticize the president or Hillary Clinton for not looking to.
I did. I criticized.
I was in mid-rant there, and you interrupted me.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I apologize.
go ahead. I want to hear this because it's got to be a hoot.
I said I couldn't support the Clintons. I had it with what was going on.
Yeah.
Time after time, I came on your network and your program and said the Obama foreign policy was a disaster. I'm an equal opportunity criticizer.
All right. Well, Fred, I know
you know that.
Well, I know this. That you seem to have more zest in your critiques when you are going after the conservative view, the Republican view. Fred, your thoughts
Not
here.
true.
This is, well, so noted. Let's get to what is an amazing, to me at least, rate of appointment on the part of this administration and that is shaping up now by the transition team for Donald Trump. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think the rate matters. I don't think speed matters. I think who you name matters, and I think so far they've been very good. I'll be interested in seeing who he has at defense.
Yeah, but the New York
Secretary
Times,
of
by
State.
the way,
but
to your point, I just got to interject very quickly. To your point, the New York Times criticizing the Trump, the president-elect's transition team because they hadn't appointed anybody in the first week. You know?
Yeah, you know, I don't think many people took that seriously. This is the problem that the mainstream media has now. They're not taken seriously by so many people. I talk to people all over the country who have just blotted them out. They ignore them. And a lot of Trump voters are in that class. And so, you know, I still look at the New York Times. I read the Washington Post. I see what they're doing. But so many people just aren't affected by them anymore. I think that I wouldn't say that what the mainstream media did during the campaign was fatal to the mainstream media, but it certainly was damaging and really ruinous to their credibility.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem. There was a feedback loop that was closed by the national left-wing media. Doug, I think Fred's got it exactly right. You know, the hell with them. They can't report straight. They're basically attack dogs for the left. Why mess with them? Why let them interfere with your day? And I hear that and see it, you know, day after day. What do you think?
You'll be surprised to hear that I agree with you, Lou. I think that the media, particularly the Times and Washington Post, were outrageous in their coverage. I think the Trump election is a repudiation of an effort by a liberal elite to control our politics. And I have a different view from you and Fred and the liberal media. I think that America comes first, our alliances come first, and if we can pull together as a country, we'll all do better.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Did you say you agree with us about America first? Doug? I think we've lost Doug.
Well, I'm for America first.
Okay, good. There's two of us, 2 out of 3. We win. Sorry, Doug, that we lost your. Go ahead, Fred. You're going to get the last word.
I was just going to say, I think Trump is going to wind up being tougher on Putin than Obama and Hillary Clinton ever were. And if we can push Russia out of Ukraine and out of Crimea, I don't know what way that would be fine. So, you know, I'm just not worried about NATO. Trump did something right, and that is put NATO on notice that they're not paying their fair share, a lot of those countries.
And by the way, their governments are beginning to acknowledge it. Fred, I'm sorry, we got to run. I appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
You too.
Doug Schoen, you too. I know you can't hear me or speak, but which, by the way, is not entirely bad when you get off on those points, that left-wing stuff. I'm kidding. Doug Schoen, terrific fellow. Fred, thanks so much. Be sure to vote in tonight's poll. Are you, your family, and friends considerably more optimistic following the election of Donald Trump? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs, and follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. On Wall Street today, stocks lower. The Dow Jones Industrials fell 36 points. The S&P down 5. The Nasdaq down 12. Volume on the big board, 3.5 billion shares. Stocks up for a second straight week, however. For the week, the Dow posting fractional gains, the S&P up 1%, Nasdaq with weekly gains of more than 1.5%. The dollar gaining again against the euro for a 10th straight session, the longest winning streak since the introduction of the euro. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, the left-wing national media, not the only ones grappling with the prospect of a Trump presidency. We'll tell you how the sporting world has suffered as well. That's the subject of my commentary next. Much more straight ahead. Stay with us. A few thoughts now on a president-elect who's already made 5 appointments to his administration so far. This after the left-wing national news media has for days been claiming disarray and strain and turmoil in the Trump transition, which makes the, well, left-wing national media look simultaneously untrustworthy, not credible, out of touch, irrelevant, and absurdly on the wrong side of history. And amazingly, it's not just the national news media, but sports media as well. ESPN's public editor Jim Brady recently wrote this, quote, "There is a feeling among many staffers at ESPN, both liberal and conservative, that the company's perceived move leftward has had a stifling effect on discourse inside the company. Consumers have sensed that same leftward movement alienating some, alienating a lot. In fact, Nielsen reported ESPN lost more than 620,000 subscribers over the course of a month, and the network proving a drag on parent company Disney's earnings. In other words, ESPN's leftward lean on the air is turning off their viewers. That leftist hard lean isn't limited to the sports network's announcers, but also the players on the field. Tampa Bay Buccaneers receiver Mike Evans became just the latest NFL player to protest during the national anthem, joining 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick in disrespect of our flag and the nation. Evans refused to stand during the anthem last Sunday in protest of President-elect Trump. I mean, figure that one out. He has since reconsidered his protest. Evans, his employers, and the NFL didn't stop this nonsense, didn't have the decency to demand players respect the fans and our nation from the outset. But fans and economics are demonstrating to even the dummies who run the NFL that politics has no place in the game. The players are entertainers, for crying out loud. Those are benches, seats, bleachers, and suites your customers are sitting on. Those aren't pews. And, well, you guys sure aren't preachers. So just play ball. Don't insult the customers. Just a little counsel. And in case the NFL is still confused, just remember this. The customer is always right. Now our quotation of the evening, this one from Abraham Lincoln. A nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. Even the NFL executive should understand the implications of that statement. We're coming right back. The president-elect holding true to his campaign promise to put the best and the strongest on his winning team.
We will call upon the best and brightest to leverage their tremendous talent for the benefit of all.
General Jack Keane met with the president-elect just yesterday. The general is my guest here next. Well, the president-elect said that he wouldn't be, as president, taking any long vacations. He's working this weekend as president-elect. Donald Trump set to meet with retired Marine General James Mattis, reportedly considering for defense secretary. The former CENTCOM chief retired in 2013 amid disagreements with the Obama White House over Iran. The Wall Street Journal also reporting tonight that Trump is considering General David Petraeus for a senior position as well. My next guest withdrew his name from consideration as defense secretary. He met with Donald Trump yesterday and joins us here tonight. General Jack Keane, retired 4-star general, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. Fox News military analyst. General, great to have you with us. I will tell you candidly, I'm disappointed that you withdrew your name. Obviously, I value highly both your judgment and your service to this country. But I also know better than to question anything you do, so I'll just leave it with my regret and hope they do very well to find someone who could be somewhere in your neighborhood of talent.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Let's turn to, for example, General Mattis. Your regard for him.
Well, General Mattis is absolutely qualified for the position. He's got vast experience, really a straight shooter. Everybody that works with him has tremendous regard and respect for him. I'm very confident that Mr. Trump, when he meets with him, will just connect with him and really feel good about General Mattis.
You met with Donald Trump. Give us a sense of the meeting, what you can say to us about your impressions, your thoughts in the time you spent with him.
You know, it was about 45 minutes in length, and he was not the only one there. He had some advisors with him as well. I really enjoyed the meeting, frankly. He is very personable, engaging. He knows he doesn't know a lot about national security and foreign policy, not unlike other presidents-elect, Obama, Bush, Clinton, and Reagan. Right. But he's well aware of it. And so he asked excellent questions, thoughtful questions. And, you know, you have this sense he's got a real energy about himself in terms of wanting to do what's right and wanting to do well. I mean, he wants to succeed at this. He wants to make certain that he's doing the right thing. I think he instinctively knows that in the domestic agenda, there's lots of help there. He's got the Congress, 535, and course corrections, and you can go back and fix some of the problems. National security, however, it's really his lane. And he knows that he can make some missteps there. So I think I'm really encouraged by the fact that he's reaching out to people, wants to understand what the issues are, talking to Henry Kissinger and others to get a sense of what this office is about and what, most importantly, what are the global security challenges that he's likely to face.
Well, there are many, and they're complex, as you know better than almost anyone. But these appointments, I think, I certainly am encouraged by the quality of people that he is putting around him. Certainly, Senator Sessions is one of the, to me, one of the most admirable figures in American politics. I don't know General Michael Flynn, who is his choice to be the National Security Advisor. Give us your impressions of him and your confidence in him.
Well, General Flynn has spent a career as a military officer in the Army. He's an intelligence officer. He had 3 major commands. He was, in terms of intelligence, he was the J2 for the counterterrorism command that we have, JSOC, that chases down terrorists worldwide. He was the intelligence officer for Central Command that oversees the Middle East to include Afghanistan and Iran. And then the last command he had, where he ran afoul of the administration, was as a director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the senior-most intelligence agency in the Department of Defense. And he just was trying to identify rather truthfully and accurately that radical Islam was a rising menace, and we had to deal with it, and it was spreading into a global jihad and threatening the security of the United States, the security of American people, and that of our allies. And that is what he wanted, to make certain that message got out, and that message was being stifled.
And General, we've got just about 30 seconds. If you could, Congressman Mike Pompeo.
I've done a lot of special testimony before his committee, so I only know him from that. Very bright, very thoughtful, asks great questions, a true American patriot. likely to do very well over at the Central Intelligence Agency. And people fuss about these appointments, but a president's got a right to have people around him that he trusts, that he has a relationship with.
Absolutely.
And he's got to be in his comfort zone. You don't want to have people around you don't like or you don't trust. Who would ever have people around them like that?
That would slow
So,
the conversation as well as the flow of information.
Yeah.
General, great to have you with us. We appreciate it. Always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Lou.
Good talk. Joining me now, the leader of the Trump domestic transition team, former Secretary of State for the great state of Ohio, Ken Blackwell. Ken, it's great to have you with us. Let's start with, this looks like it's moving very fast. It's certainly going a lot faster than anyone in the national left-wing media is giving you all credit for.
Yeah, you would have to have the imagination of Walt Disney to paint any other picture. And we in fact are just keeping our shoulders to the grindstone, and we're making this happen. That's because we have a decisive, clear-headed leader who in fact has already set records in pulling together a great campaign and bringing together a broad slice of America. And now we're going to give them what he in fact promised.
And I know you've got landing teams, as they're called, people going into the major departments and agencies to get ready for the transition, which is now 62 days distant. Are you, well, more importantly, are you convinced that your boss, our boss soon to be, is happy with the way it's going?
Oh, absolutely. Again, he's thoughtful. I heard the general just talking to you about it. Mm-hmm. He is, in fact, a very thoughtful person. He listens well, and then he's decisive. And once he sets a course of action, he expects folks to follow it. And that's what we're trying to demonstrate. That's why we're so far ahead of the curve that the mainstream media is all twisted in knots.
Yeah. Are you really paying a lot of attention to that left-wing national media, or are you going to just let it go?
Absolutely not. We're not paying any attention to them. He, in fact, proved to all of America that they have missed the boat. They don't have a touch for what's on the minds of Main Street America, and that's why he's, in fact, dead set on putting us on a path of growth, job creation, putting Americans back to work, and making a cultural change. Lou, we are rapidly becoming a culture where earning money doesn't entitle you to it, but wanting money does. He, in fact, is going to put us back on the right path.
I love that expression, Ken. We appreciate you being with us, and continued success, and keep it rolling. Thanks so much.
We will do. Thank you.
Good to see you. Up next, President Obama wrapping up his farewell tour. He's scheduled to meet with China's president, but just days ago, China warned President-elect Trump that cooperation is the only choice. Trump's China advisor and transition team member, Michael Pillsbury, joins me here next. Stay with us. In our online poll last night, we asked you, do you believe the left-wing national media will give the president-elect due credit for reaching out graciously to Mitt Romney and Governor Nikki Haley? 94% of you expressed, well, a negative thought, saying no to that. I think you're right, by the way. Joining me now, Michael Pillsbury, an advisor to the Trump transition team, director of Chinese strategy at the Hudson Institute, also the author of the New York Times bestseller, The 100-Year Marathon. And it is great, Michael, of you to give us your time and your thoughts here tonight. First of all, she has not been in any way reluctant to express some very firm attitudes about cooperation to the president-elect. We've had Jack Ma, who, as you know, serves as something as an ex officio PRC ambassador to the business community. I mean, they're talking rather tough. What's your reaction to those warnings that go well beyond those two?
Well, the Chinese have had quite a bit to say. They did a very important article a few days ago on comparing Obama to Trump, saying Obama is the Cold Warrior, Mr. Trump is a man we're going to have a new era of cooperation with.
And what does that mean to you? I mean, the idea that Obama's any kind of warrior doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, we've had a lot of Chinese visitors come here who are experts on Mr. Trump. They've read his books, which seem to exist in Chinese translation. You know, they're basically in favor of starting off as smoothly as possible with Mr. Trump. That was the nature of the phone call to him.
So they're going to shut down their islands, those constructed islands of the South China Sea. They're going to withdraw all of their contretemps with those with whom they have territorial disputes. I mean, is this where we're headed?
No.
You make it sound lovely.
What they're doing, I think that what they're going to try to do is see if Peter Navarro's statements are going to be the real policy of President Trump. Peter Navarro, they know very well. His books are in translation as well. Peter has said a great number of things. For example, currency manipulator will be declared on the first day. If that does not happen, it tends to reassure the Chinese that there will be other forces they can manipulate in our system. They're very confident that Congress still is basically in favor of the old consensus on China. So the Chinese are in a period of watchful waiting to see if Trump really meant what he said during the campaign about China.
What is your sense of it as one of his advisors?
Well, even if he tries to do everything he said he would do, you get into questions of definition. What does it mean, for example, to say China rapes our country? Mr. Trump said this many times. It's hard to craft a kind of national security decision directive that says stop China's rape of our country.
Well, I think maybe what he, including within that
he meant
term,
unfair trade advantage. He meant takes unfair trade advantage of us.
So much more. He could talk about the immense transfer of wealth from the 1990s under President Clinton to the People's Republic, the outright theft of technology and business secrets. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, it may sound like hyperbole, but it could, because in some ways, rape is inappropriate because it's been so consensual, particularly on the part of the neoliberals who have been guiding policy in this country for so long.
Well, that's a big part of the problem, is not only American wishful thinking, but American, essentially, as you say, consent to what China's been doing. I think Mr. Trump would be well advised to have a comprehensive China strategy. It may not come out on January 20th.